Drive Me Wild, Soy Around, Kicks 105.5. A good morning to you. I'm Sean Knight. Joining me as he does every hump day, about 10 minutes till 8 o'clock, it is Mike Barrett. And Mike, we were talking about flooding. Hump day, hump day.
I love how we use a Geico reference on my good policies conversation. But you know what? It's all good.
It's all good. So we, of course, were talking about natural disasters and floods. We had come to the conclusion, for people that didn't know, that you actually have to have flood insurance. Regular insurance doesn't cover anything flood.
Right.
But we were talking about what defines flood, whether it's coming in from a flow of water or whether it's coming up from the ground or whether it's seeping through your basement walls or coming through the roof and destroying your house. There were so many different ways. Right. I know that definition and semantics and some sticky stuff, depending on if you get paid out or not.
I mean,
for who you have.
The word is trigger, all right? So flood is not just automatically covered. Now, of course, flood not being covered on a homeowner policy, but let's say you do have, and you're that person who got a flood insurance policy, which most likely means your bank told you to, because most other people just don't do it, even though we talk about it. But the trigger for the National Flood Insurance Program for flood coverage to be applicable or to be in play is has to impact the surface water, has to impact so much land or so many neighbors. So it can't just be like we had a heck of a rainstorm and you had groundwater seepage. That's not going to be a flood because it didn't impact your neighbors. It didn't impact 2 acres of land or more. So there's different triggers, and that's very important to know because I don't want people to be buying a flood insurance policy saying, all right, water happens, I am all set. You need to have that dialogue. You need to have some reference materials, which I have, to show you, look, here is how this would work if it happens.
Now, we actually have on Monday mornings, Brent Curtis from the Vermont Department of Transportation. He calls up and he talks about what's going on, as far as construction around Vermont and New Hampshire. And then we get, an opportunity to sort of ask random questions. And my last question to him was, as we were talking about all these floodings and all these cars and all these issues going on, that with car accidents and things, that the state itself sometimes, and actually frequently, has to go up against insurance agencies. He said
companies.
Because of incidents that happen on public highways and roadways. And he says that there's always at least 13 or 14 different suits going on at one time, but yet he never really has issues. Why is it? Is it because he's the state and insurance companies just don't want to mess with that? Why is it I feel like I get the runaround when I'm dealing with it, and they get the smooth sailing? Is it they pay
don't
a
for
better?
1 second believe they have a smooth sailing.
Do
There's just a lot more
premium than I do?
suits. There's a lot more suits at play there.
Yeah.
And when I'm saying suits, I'm saying lawyer people, legals. So these are people who are on retainer and who are on staff on a regular basis and are prepared to do this. So this is almost like their full-time job.
But you
so it's
also
not
have
really
to
going
have
to be
that
the same thing.
same situation where you would have to go up against people.
Yeah.
Do you send in your own lawyers, or do you approach that yourself?
For a claim situation?
Yeah.
So, ultimately, the insurance companies really don't want lawyers to ever be involved. Because when the lawyers are involved, that means something didn't happen right.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, and it's usually a casualty event that would bring a lawyer in. So that's a good conversation for another day because I don't want to go too long today. But
Did you just say you don't want to go too long today?
Aren't you proud of me?
I would let you talk for an hour, and I just sit here and...
Where's the page? I'm just going to turn the page. There
Okay, moving forward.
No, but that's a great conversation that has a lot of logistics to it, but I don't think that I'm necessarily prepared enough to get into it right now, and I want to have enough time to talk about it. So that's a good thing to maybe bring up next week. But let's talk about flood still. You were talking about vehicles, talking about the state, and I was going to have you ring the bell because I really, for a second, thought you were going in my direction.
Oh, are you talking about the cars they're trying to
no, your car
skip
is now
Carfax and send them up to Midwest?
Yeah,
no, they are.
I know they are.
They're trying to send like 500,000 cars, and they're expecting...
Is your car... So houses have to have flood insurance. What about your car?
I would imagine you probably have to have some different clause. You'd have to have an additional clause on your... No.
If you have... And
Wrong.
I hate the... That's why I'm here, Sean. Okay. I'm here to educate you, sir.
Thank you.
If you have liability only in your car, then you can keep driving this morning and not listen.
Yeah.
But if you have comprehensive coverage on your car, comprehensive covers things like fire, theft, vandalism, impact with animals, falling objects, hail, blah, 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 flood is in there. So if you have comprehensive coverage on your car and your car is sucked up by floodwaters, you're covered.
I'm going to ask you a really stupid question, and it's half comical. There is a group of people who have decided to start bringing in animals from the hurricane floodwaters. There's a jail down there in Miami-Dade that is currently housing like a couple of lost beavers and like a cat and a rabbit. But these
Is
fellows,
Noah coming to pick them up?
Yeah, there's these fellows that actually had 2 horses, and because their house was flooding and the yard was flooded, they brought them up to the 2nd floor, and they had 2 horses on the 2nd floor of their home for like 4 days. And I'm thinking, what if the horse pees on my big screen TV while he's in there? Would that be something that you would cover? Now, you see, it's funny, but it's true at the same time. My big screen TV, because obviously I can't put a diaper on a horse.
If Mr. Red whips his tail and cracks your flat screen, you're probably going to want to file a claim. Or if he's too heavy and he goes
Would
for a
they laugh you
floorboard.
out of the...
Maybe. Because there are some exclusions. Like, if my dog causes damage to my house, it's mine. It's a domestic animal. And the argument could be made that, you let your horse in. It's not like this horse came running into your house and caused damage. So, you really probably wouldn't have any coverage there. Yeah. And then last week we talked about how some policies may or may not have flood insurance built into them.
Right.
And I wanted to clarify that very briefly. So if you have a farm policy, your farm buildings would not be covered for flood, but there's a high probability, and I recommend talking with your company and making sure, but there's a high probability that your farm equipment, livestock, would be covered for a flood loss. And then if you have a mobile home, some of the mobile home companies out there, like American Modern Insurance Group, actually build flood and earthquake coverage into their mobile home policies. So while I'm saying flood is never covered, there is the rare occurrence where it could be. Always understand what you're buying, always understand what's available, and that kind of seals that little gap that I left open last week.
There you have her. If you'd like to find out more information about something that may or may not be covered under your policy, or, always available to chat. Barrett and Barrett Insurance Agency.
I really
in
hate
St.
talking.
Johnsbury.
That's one of my favorite things to do.
You can call him up at
748-5224. Visit our website, thebarrettagency.com. We're on Google+, YouTube, and Facebook as Barrett Insurance Agency.
Thank you, bud.
See ya.